When you see this painting, what comes to your mind? Yeah, it is the Sistine Chapel painting of the creation of Adam, and you must have heard a lot of different things about what it represents. But have you ever thought about it in terms of a problem? Yeah, I know it's probably crazy to look at such a painting and rather than think of beauty and creation, you think of problems. But hear me out. This painting has to do with the creation of life, and as you know, there's lots of problems in this world, so it's really not that far-fetched. But this video is not primarily about the painting, at least for now, but we'll come back to it soon enough. Now I think it's necessary to first establish that there has to be a God. I mean, what field of study could you be into for you not to believe that there has to be a power or force stronger than man somewhere in the universe? I personally think it's very flawed to insist that a powerful force that created this beautiful and very complicated world is mindless and lifeless. So if you accept that the force has life and has a mind, then that's God, regardless of who it belongs to. So if there's a God that created all life, how powerful would he be? Well, most religions believe that God is all powerful and as the great end that I am. I believe so too. God is all knowing, all doing, in all places, in all time, top to bottom, front and backwards. Simply put, God is without limits. So what is there for a being that's everything and everywhere at all times supposed to do? Just imagine what life would be like when you have all the power, but there's nothing to do. There's nothing for you to aspire to. There's no problem to solve. There's nowhere to go. Maybe you're thinking, why am I asking you to try and put yourself in God's shoes? After all, we're not God, and we can't comprehend what he thinks or feels. But we are made in his image, aren't we? So while we won't be able to comprehend how God feels or thinks, there is no harm in trying. Now, if you did try that imagination, you'll see such situation. You discover that what's needed is something to do, a problem to solve. But what possible problem could there be for God to solve? Anything. What possibly? The thing is, for you to have a problem, you need to have a limitation. If your problem, for example, is lack of wealth, then that's because you have limited resources, which could be skills, knowledge, etc. A lack literally means there is a limitation, so this leads to the conclusion that there is something God lacks, and that's limitation. He lacks the ability to have things that he cannot do, things that he cannot have or control. Crazy, but who would have thought that inability could be an ability? Well, you have to be God for that to be the case. So what exactly am I saying? I'm saying that God was in fact creating a problem when he began the creation. I'm saying that it's possible, or maybe not. Does that make God chaotic? No, it means God had the problem of not having a problem, and so he created a problem so he could solve it. Okay, I get it. This seems like a very simplistic view, and maybe it is, but don't forget, we are trying to map out a thought that would help us to deal with problems. I mean, since problems abound plenty, it's wise to find a way to deal with them, not run from it. So is that wise? Well, why? First off, God decided to create a being that would be like him, but then the being is not like him because it has limitations. There's so many things the being cannot do. The same being that was made in his own image. So could we say that God made a version of himself that couldn't do certain things? Is that crazy? You see, the interesting thing about this life is that we keep discovering, or should I say, inventing new diseases, new problems, new limitations. Some people come into the world with abnormal disabilities that have never been seen before. Why does it seem like there's not an end to the bad things that could exist? Have you ever seen a predicament or disability in someone and be like, why does this kind of ailment exist? We have enough sicknesses already. Why does this type even exist? Why is it even possible? Like, what type of God makes a world where such illnesses exist? Atheists certainly feel this way, and trust me, you probably will feel that way at the end of this video. Alright, let me just let the cat out the bag. Every single human is God's idea of a new way of being limited. Every human comes into the world, and as he grows, he starts facing challenges, disappointments, and struggles. But that's just God experiencing what it means to have such issues, such desires, and such weaknesses. Now that's the first type of the thought that makes people become atheists or hate God. The second and most important part is that God is experiencing that weakness, challenge, and disability with the aim to transcend or conquer it. Now I know that idea probably sounds crazy, but stick with me. Remember Geppetto in Pinocchio? Now think of Geppetto as God creating Pinocchio, you and me. This time Geppetto has all the power to make Pinocchio perfect, and let's say Geppetto is what most people want God to think like. So we made Pinocchio perfect without any problems and gave him life and all the power. Would you still watch that film? I mean, what really prompted Marvel to create a kryptonite for Superman? Why not just let him be super strong and win every enemy easily? Well, you know the answer to all this. It would be boring and uninteresting. But why? There's nothing there, no substance, nothing to learn, and quite frankly, that would be a pointless film production. As in, that production, or better yet, that creation would be pointless, and yes, the reason would be because of lack of inability, lack of limitation. For a movie to be interesting, it needs a lot of things. One of them is a problem or a conflict, and another is resolution or an ending that's better than the beginning. That's how a good story works. And yes, that's how life works. Not having a problem can be a problem. Life is just so good that most would never be in a situation to understand that, since we already have a lot of problems in our lives. But if you looked at the lives of certain celebrities who committed suicide, you might get the idea. I mean, what really led to depression that killed celebs like Kurt Cobain and Chester Bennington from the rock band Linkin Park? They had the fame, they had the money, and they succeeded in the field of their choosing. So what really happened? Of course, they still had their problems which made them depressed, but oftentimes the depression comes from not having something challenging to do. It comes from emptiness, and that's one of the worst feelings a person can have. Emptiness. Now, that's a pain that's hard to deal with because you can't really tell what the solution is. When God was creating the world too, there was that emptiness, void and dark, that nothingness. And then the world in all its imperfections, limitations, and problems was created, and God considered that good. Who knows, but hear me out. Could it be that it was good because the point of creation, like any story or invention, is first the emergence of a problem and then quest to solve it? Could it be that it would have been bad to create a perfect world, in which case there would be nothing to do? And more importantly, could it be that God allowed for the existence of all these problems so he could experience the limitations and work towards solving them, even while being limited? Yes, this is my point. Every individual has a spark of the divine, a piece of God in him or her. And this piece of God is experiencing what it means to have the particular set of problems you have, and is trying through you to solve those problems while being an imperfect human. God is showing how all-powerful he is by subjecting himself to limitations and working to transcend those limitations. You and I are a vessel through which God is experiencing various problems. Now, obviously, there's a problem with this idea because some individuals have given themselves over to the dark side, and they are not interested in being a force for good. Worse, they are consciously working to be a powerful force of evil. So, about such people, is it still God working through them? Or did God lose them and they fell right into the lap of the enemy? Hard to tell, but if every life ended well and transcended its problems, it wouldn't be much of a challenge or limitation now, would it? Like, if there's no instance of God losing, then where is the challenge? I think of it like Jesus on the cross. Dude died at 33 about 2,000 years ago, and till this day the world still mentions his name, whether in prayers or as an exclamation. Like, did he actually lose by dying, or was it a victory masked as a defeat? Besides Jesus, you can also think of Vincent van Gogh in this manner. Dude's paintings were never recognized throughout his life until he committed suicide. All of a sudden, it's almost as if his death uncovered the beauty in his heart that people couldn't see. At that point, one really has to ask, what's a definite defeat? Well, who knows the real truth, right? But I think it's helpful to use this sort of stoic idea for your life, and this is it. God has given us a blueprint for life. You need your problems, your disability, your failures, but you don't need them so you can fall in love with them. You need them so you can solve them. You need them so you can work, so that you can aim for something better than what you already are.